So this is technically the second video on this worksheet, and what I want to focus in on are questions like 25 and 26, where you have a word problem, you need to come up with the equation, you need to be able to solve it. So 25 reads, find two consecutive integers whose sum is 35. Before even trying to do this problem, we need to understand what the word consecutive means, right? Consecutive integers, all right? So let's first talk about the word consecutive. So, seriously, I've seen this offer before. A certain hotel says, stay 3 consecutive nights and get the 4th night free. What does consecutive mean right there? Like in a row, exactly. So if you go Monday, you got to stay Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then you get Thursday for free. So the consecutive means right next to each other, right? So if you're talking about days, it has to be days that are right next to each other. So it's not like on this hotel deal, you could, I want to stay Saturday night, and then next Saturday I want to stay again, then the next Saturday I want to stay again, and then I want a night for free the 4th night. It doesn't work that way. It has to be consecutive, means right next to each other. Another example of consecutive, here's my phone, and on my phone I have the Nike Run Club app. Anybody use that? So yeah, like when you run, you could click on the app and it'll track how fast you run, how long you run. And they have this thing, if you click on the app, it'll open up to one of these pages, and it's called Just Do It Sunday. And what they do is if you run 5 consecutive 5Ks every Sunday, there it is, 5 consecutive Sundays, 5K, that's about 3.10 miles. So 5 consecutive Sundays, that means every single Sunday right next to each other. You can't skip Sundays. If you do the 5K run on the app, which is about 3.10 miles each Sunday, you'll be eligible to enter a drawing of some free Nike tennis shoes. Yeah, and it sounds easy, but it's hard to run the 3 miles every single Sunday. Like, yeah, I've tried it. I've gotten 4 in a row, but then for some reason I can't do the 5th one. But anyways, the whole point of this is to get you guys to know what consecutive means. It means right next to. So let's take a look at some numbers here. All right, we have numbers in a chart, starting with the number 1 down here, going 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all the way to 100 way up here. But for example, if I said, name 3 consecutive numbers that's more than 60 but less than 70. All right, 3 consecutive numbers. What were those 3 consecutive numbers that are more than 60 but less than 70?
61, 62, 63.
There you go, 61, 62, 63, or maybe 66, 67, 68, or maybe 63, 64, 65, consecutive, right? Now, what if I would say, name 3 consecutive even numbers between 60 and 70? 62, 64, and 66. Excellent, right? Consecutive even, 62, 64, 66. What if I said consecutive odd between 60 and 70? 61, 63, 65, or 63, 65, 67. You guys get the idea. Consecutive means right next to. So I believe now we could go back to the actual question on the worksheet. So back to the worksheet number 25. Find 2 consecutive integers whose sum is 35. Okay, so let's analyze this. What does sum mean? What does sum mean? This means addition. Okay, now it says that the sum equals 35. Now they want us to find 2 consecutive integers. Integers are positive and negative numbers. Nice, no decimals, no fractions. So consecutive numbers. So what are 2 consecutive numbers? 17, 18, 19, 20, 4 and 5, 2 and 3. Those are consecutive numbers. So you want to be able to find out what number plus the next number gives you 35. And you guys just said 17 and 18. That's a correct answer. But what we want to do is know how to do this algebraically. Okay? Now algebraically, we don't know the first number. So what we're going to do is label that first number X or N or whatever you want to call it. What letter do you guys want to use? N? Okay, so let's call the first number N. So I have an N right here. Now, whatever number that is, whether it's 5, the next one has to be 6. Or maybe it's 10, the next one has to be 11. or maybe it's 12, the next one has to be 13, right? So if this is n, whatever that is, the next one has to be exactly one more than it. Does that make sense? So if this is n, the next number has to be, and let me do this, let me put it in parentheses, the next number has to be n plus 1. Does that make sense? So that's consecutive, that's a consecutive number right there. So you don't know what n is, but if it's consecutive, that means that the next number has to be n plus 1, because that's the number that's right next to it. It's plus 1. So for example, if this was 15, then this one would have to be 16. So this is your first number, n. This is your second number, which is n plus 1. Does that make sense? Okay, so we have our equation right here. Now all we have to do is solve it. Now this is what we call a multi-step equation. It actually requires simplification. We haven't even done this before. All right, this is the first time we have an equation, and we're going to have to simplify. Now, what do I mean by that? I have addition. There's nothing to distribute, so there is no distributed property, but I do have addition. So the parentheses are not really necessary right now. So I could just rewrite this as n plus 1 without the parentheses, because there's nothing to distribute, equals 35. Now, let's look at the left side of the equal sign over here. There's 3 terms, 1, 2, 3. Could I combine any of those to make it look nicer? What could I combine? The n and the other n gives us 2n, right? So let's actually combine this n right here with this other n right there. N plus n is 2n. And now we could rewrite everything, bring down the plus 1, bring down the equal sign, bring down the 35. So now we have an actual equation that is simplified that we could solve. I want to get n by itself. I want to find out that first number. So I need to solve for n. What do I do first? Get rid of the 2 or get rid of the 1? Get rid of the 1. Okay, so let's get rid of the 1 by subtracting 1, the opposite. That's going to cancel out. Subtract 1 over here. We're going to have a new equation that says 2n. The equal sign comes down. 35 take away 1 is 34. And for my final step, I'm going to have to divide by 2 on both sides. So I'm going to divide by 2 here to get rid of the multiplication of 2. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. So n equals 17. Now keep in mind that the question is not find the single number. It says find 2 consecutive integers. So what did we find? We found 17, and the next number is 18, right? So the first number is 17, which means that the next number is going to be 18. So the answer to this question is 17 and 18. Those are the 2 consecutive numbers that if you add them together, their answer is 35. So let's take a look at this next one. Find 3 consecutive numbers. Find 3 consecutive integers whose sum is 36. That's a little more interesting. Now, why do you think I'm making an entire video on this consecutive business? Because it's coming out on the quiz, right? Several of these questions are coming out on the quiz. So make sure you understand this stuff. 3 consecutive integers whose sum, what does sum mean again? Sum mean addition. And how many numbers are we going to be adding? 3. So I have my first number spot plus my second number spot plus my third number spot. And then it does say is 36, equals 36. Do I know my first number? No.
You don't know.
So I don't know any of them. But the first number, what do you want to call it?
Z.
Z, X? Let's go with X this time. Last time we went with N. This time I want to go with X. So whatever number X is, the next consecutive number is going to be what? X plus 1, the next number, right? So right here you're going to put X plus 1. And technically you should put in parentheses, but the parentheses are going to disappear because there's nothing to distribute. Now, if you know that this number is X, the very next consecutive number is going to be that same number plus 1. How about the next number? What's it going to be?
X plus 2.
It's going to be the X plus 2, right? Exactly. Perfect. Good job. So we're going to put X plus 2 right here. And there's my equation. And like I said, if you look at the equation, there's nothing to distribute inside the parentheses, which means that the parentheses are unnecessary. So let me just rewrite everything without parentheses. So there's my long, ugly looking equation, okay? Now, the very next section, 2.4, are multi-step equations that require simplification. It's kind of like we're doing that already because this is a long, ugly equation. Could I do anything to either side of the equation to make it nicer? No. Yeah, you could. You could simplify, right? Now, yeah, on the right side, there's 36. That's simple. The number 36 is as simple as it gets. But over here, there's a lot of junk right here. You could make this way smaller by combining like terms, right? Simplify means distributed property, which there isn't any, and there's also combining like terms as simplify, so there is combining like terms. So let's combine all the x's. How many x's do I really have on the left side? 3. I have one right here, another right here, and another right there. That's a total of 3 of those x's. And what about the numbers? I have a positive 1 right here and a positive 2 right there.
3.
That's also 3. So put plus 3. And of course, we're going to rewrite the rest. Equals 36. Now, doesn't this red equation look a lot better than the black equation? Yeah, it's smaller, it's nicer, it's simplified, right? So what could we do now to that red equation to start solving?
Minus 3.
Minus 3, that's right. We want to get rid of this plus 3, so we're going to do the opposite, which is minus 3. And what you do to one side, you do to the other side to maintain the balance. Your new equation will read 3x equals 33. So your final step in solving is going to be what?
Dividing.
Dividing by 3, dividing by 3. The 3's cancel. X equals 11.
11.
Now guess what?
So it's 11, 12, 13.
Yeah, 11, 12, 13. Perfect. If on the test you write the answer 11 and you leave it like that,
You're wrong.
I can't give you full credit. I give you half credit because I know you did it right. But again, it's asking for 3 consecutive integers. It's asking for 3 numbers. So again, what are the 3 numbers? If x is 11, then this one has to be 12 and this one has to be 13, right? So 11, 12, 13 are the correct answers to this one. 11, 12, 13. Those are the answers to number 26. So I hope this video helps with these consecutive word problems.